Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Billy Strange. Turn 10 has just released their beta version of Forza Motorsport 6 Apex, and with that, I've jumped right in so that I could give a first look impression of the now PC title. Some housekeeping notes before we get started. There is no wheel support yet. Turn 10 says it's coming in a later update, so if you're a hardcore sim racer and don't care about a title unless it has wheel support, turn back now. You've been warned. This is not for you. I will be showing gameplay footage for the most part here while I give my thoughts and impressions on Forza Motorsport 6 Apex. If you are interested in settings and related info, I will go over that at the end. Also, Turn 10 has asked for feedback, so hopefully they will watch this. As such, I will be throwing out suggestions throughout this video, and I encourage you to do so as well in the comments below. Reminder though, please be respectful, as these are human beings that put this together and they put a lot of effort into putting this title out, not to mention onto a whole new platform. Constructive criticism will go a long way without cursing and berating Turn 10, and I think it's in our best interest, really, to put our best foot forward to get a title that we all can enjoy. I am using an Xbox One controller with Apex, no traction controls or stability management, and I am using manual transmission. Lastly, I have put a little over an hour into Apex. I've driven 10 races, unlocked 6 events, 16 cars, and so while I haven't played everything in Apex, I have played Forza Motorsport 6 extensively on the Xbox One, and there really are not a whole lot of differences when it comes to the driving aspect of this game. Again, these are my first impressions with the beta, so expect test drive videos in the future with other cars and when updates come out. Apex starts out with the same intro video as Forza Motorsport 6, and while it's done nicely, I'd like to see the ability to skip this, unless it's masking like a load time or something to that effect. If it is, it would be nice for them to let us know that, hey, this is actually loading something, not just we're showing you an intro that you can't skip just because we're really proud of it and, well, you're forced now to watch it. Next, Apex throws you into a race with the new Ford GT at Rio de Janeiro. And let's stop here for a second. Every single assist is on, just like Forza Motorsport 6 on the Xbox One. And I'm not sure why this trend started, where we jumped off to this point at, but how about asking us before we start what level of realism that we would like? You know, all assists, no assists, traction control, something. Even a skip option would have been great. And I get it, this is for people that would like an introduction or maybe not have played a lot of sim racing games or racing games in general, especially by Turn 10, and that's totally cool, I get it. What I'm asking for is an option to drive how I want to or let me skip it. What happens instead is I'm forced to drive, and that's a very liberal sense of the term. And what I mean by that is every single assist is turned on. That's it. You can literally just hold the throttle down, wide open, all the way around the track for the whole lap that you're racing. You never have to lift, and you barely have to turn. It does everything else for you. It lets off, it brakes. If you're getting too far offline, it even steers for you. I'm really not doing anything. There's no skill required here, and however, you do get rewarded with race points at the end that unlock medals, but we'll get into that later. So again, the race is great for new racers, but a terrible idea for anyone else that has experienced any other racing titles. So again, please, I'd like the option to tailor it or skip it. Apex then shows you how many medals you have, and these are what you need to unlock the 60 plus cars in the game. Medals are earned by what objectives you meet, and those will give you race points. Other factors like what assists you have on and or off, and how well you race in general also earn you those race points. Each race has a possible total of 3 medals to get. Score high enough and those medals turn into, it appears like a platinum color or something, although this looks just like a badge of honor. I haven't noticed anything that happened significant with getting the platinum on all 3 in Apex so far. As of right now, this is where the free-to-play element comes in. If you wish, you can unlock cars earlier by purchasing each one, that's each individual car, for 99 cents. And I don't really have a problem with this. Some people might, but there's no multiplayer, so splitting your audience isn't an issue. Also, The medals to unlock cars don't seem to be very hard to come by, and again, I'm not all the way through, but it does seem like it's a fairly balanced system up to this point. And really, the game is free, so by the time you get to the end and you're short a couple of cars that you really want to race, throw them a couple bucks. These guys, this is how they make a living, so just know that you're helping people out that put time and effort into making a game, and I don't see that as being a big issue. Each race in Apex has certain conditional requirements to meet to progress to the next event in Showcase Tour Mode, of which there are 12 events. Now, once finished with that, it opens up into Spotlight, which I have not opened up yet. There's also a free play where you can take any of the cars you've unlocked so far and race them on any of the 6 locations, all of which have multiple configurations. Driving with an Xbox One controller in Apex works well for the most part. Those that have played 6 on the Xbox One know exactly what I'm talking about. Turn 10 even got the haptic feedback triggers for the Xbox One controller into this release, which was a real nice touch. So in other words, if you're using ABS, you can feel the pulse in the trigger, on your left trigger, that is. If you have a wheel spin, or if you turn traction control on, you can actually feel the vibration in the right trigger itself, and you can actually feel the loss of traction in the trigger. It's a very interesting, very neat touch that the Xbox One controller can do. Most of the time the car does what you expect, even with turning the driving aids off. There is an issue though. I notice it most with the mid-engine cars, but all cars like to understeer going into the corner and then snap oversteer. Front engine rear wheel drive cars, I don't notice this quite as much, but this handling and physics characteristic makes cars like the Ferrari 458 a massive handful to race competitively. Also note that unlike 6, Apex does not appear to have the option to upgrade and or swap parts out, which has been a staple in the Forza franchise, and I can only hope that this will be an included feature in the full release. Apex includes the same swath of events that Forza Motorsport 6 has, everything from a standard race to bowling with a car to an event that you have to negotiate through slower traffic while trying to get to the lead before the race is over. Those fun races, while they can be a nice little distraction, I wish they were not a part of the core progression experience. Instead, I'd like to see these like a side mission in an open world game would be. Not a necessity to progress, but a small reward would be waiting for you if you felt you wanted to participate in that kind of an event. So except for those events, I like the progression in Apex. It gives me something to shoot for, and it does make a career enticing to keep playing. And while some may want everything up front, again, you can pay for that if you want. This type of progression will keep me continually engaged with the game, especially if they keep releasing content with more races in it. That's the key. It's got to have more races, kind of like Gran Turismo 6 does with their seasonal events. That's a great idea to keep people engaged with the game. Graphically, Apex looks amazing. With that said, it's not that far off from Forza Motorsport 6 on the Xbox One. There are a multitude of settings, of which I will go over later, but most notable for me is the issue of not being able to utilize my ultra-wide monitor, even though it gives me the option to do it. It shows 2560 by 1440, but still stays in the 1920 by 1080 aspect ratio. Again, I know this is a beta, and hopefully this will be fixed, but it's something that currently doesn't work that shows that it should be working. I'd also like to see the option for 2560 by 1080, and possibly, maybe someday down the line, we'll get a triple screen option. I've also had some frame rate stalls where Apex almost does this like pause thing while you're racing, and then all of a sudden it kicks back in. It acts like it's going to crash, but then it like catches up with itself and the gameplay resumes after like a 3 to 4 second stall. It's very disconcerting. It's only happened a handful of times, but again, it's obvious that it's not well optimized yet. I do have all my Windows updates up to date, as well as I've updated all my NVIDIA drivers. I just think that this is part of the growing pains of them starting a PC release for their first time. So Turn 10 will more than likely be able to fix all those optimization issues before the full release. And just like with 6, Apex has no field of view adjustment, no removal of hands and or wheel. So hopefully when the wheel support comes, these options will come with it. We're at a point now where these are not oddball features to have anymore, and especially if you're releasing this on the PC. PC users are used to being able to adjust their field of view. There's no reason not to have it. And hopefully with all these suggestions, when they do Horizon 3 or Forza Motorsport 7 or whatever their next title is, hopefully with the feedback we're giving them, like the field of view adjustment, hopefully that gets implemented into the Xbox One releases as well. Sound is the same in Apex as it is in Forza Motorsport 6 on the Xbox One, and that means that it has the same issues I have with it that I even had with Forza 5. For whatever reason, Turn 10 mixes the sound dreadfully. Project Cars has the same issue. The in-car volume is too low when you are surrounded by other cars. Now, I don't know if you guys just aren't checking this. Like, I've been in the studio, I've been in bands, I've recorded, I've been in the studio. It sounds amazing when you have this huge, nice, thousands of dollar mixing board and thousands of dollars monitors that you can listen to sound and you get this clarity that is just awesome. And it gets mixed down and mastered, and then you go put it in your, your truck that has a bone stock stereo, or somebody's car that has a bone stock stereo. And you're like, what happened? Wait, where's the bass is too heavy. Wait, I'm missing cymbals and stuff. You can't mix it that way. You can get it to a point, but you need to test it on a variety of other systems so you're not missing the clarity that is available. So I don't know if they're doing it in the studio and they're like, yeah, that sounds awesome, and then they're just not going to just take an Xbox One and plug it into a TV and see if you can hear your car while you're on the in-car view. I've tried it with headphones. I've tried it with a nice home theater system with 5-point surround sound. I've tried it on just a TV with the stock speakers. It does have 3 different settings in there. I've tried all 3 of those with every different combination imaginable. I've tried other ones at other people's houses. I've watched on YouTube and heard people complain about the same thing. The in-car camera volume is too low when you're surrounded by other cars. It makes it incredibly hard when you are manually shifting to hear the point at which you should be shifting at, and then you end up bouncing off the rev limiter, and it's just a catastrophe. Again, this is not something I have ever experienced with a helmet inside my own race car or even a street car. You can hear the other cars around you, but your car, you can always hear, and you're getting vibrations and everything else, so you should be able to hear your car over everybody else. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. So I would really, really like some individual volume sliders. For those people that don't have an issue with this, you can leave it alone. That's where I think I'll leave the majority of my first impressions. Hang on. We'll get to the nuts and bolts of Forza Motorsport 6 Apex if that's what you're looking for. I'll cover it real briefly at the end. But Apex, it's a promising start, and I think that Turn 10 can make some revisions and turn this into a really great title. I really do. I'm confident that they can do this if they really listen to their community, and that's the key. Don't become like a David Cage and go, you will get what I'm giving you. We saw it with Dirt Rally. They listened to their community, and they turned out a great title. I think it's one of the best titles that have ever come to the console. So if Turn 10 really takes the constructive criticism to heart, I really think they can make a great title out of Apex. I like the progression. I like the free-to-play element. It seems fair, and graphically, Apex looks fantastic. With wheel support coming, we need a field of view slider. We need an adjustment to the in-car volume and sound, and there's some other minor fixes and optimization issues that need to be addressed, which those small ones, like the starting intro and stuff like that. I could take it or leave it. It's just something I'd like to see. The optimization things, I'm fairly certain they'll figure out how to get these running real smooth on a PC. And now we'll move on to the menu screen, which has a message tile. It has a tile for Forza Vista where you can look at the cars. Forza Hub where you can redeem rewards for playing Turn 10 games. So because I've played all the prior Forza titles, it unlocked a Nissan GTR in Apex for me. There's also a marketplace, which is for future content, which is currently unavailable. And then it has an options tile and a tile for driver record. Driver record houses your stats and your replays. Options has controller, audio, and graphical options. And this is where, for PC users, the graphic options are a little unusual, as dynamic, quote-unquote, is the keyword here. To me, that verbiage means that it constantly tries to scale things based on the GPU and the CPU load. If I'm not mistaken, this is something that Forza Motorsport 6 does on the Xbox One. I believe it scales dynamically based on the load that's happening with the game. You can force the resolution and all the other options it has, but that also means that there can be performance issues. On the flip side of that, you can also turn settings down, like lens flare, for example, which I don't care for a lot of, which can also lighten the load and give a better frame rate. Speaking of the actual frame rate of Apex itself, it seems to run a fairly solid 60 frames per second. My system has a GeForce GTX 960, i5 4690K, and 16 gigs of RAM. And the tracks look amazing as I'm screaming around with the cars. I mean, it doesn't seem to be an issue. I've had frame dips every once in a while, and yes, I did have, I talked about those few frame stalls, and I've also had about 3 or 4 hard crashes with the game. Aside from those issues, which were few and far between, in general, it seemed to run at a fairly solid 60. And then just onto the controllers. Controllers have the option to change the dead zones just like it does on the Xbox One, which is nice. It's nice that these guys are paying attention to the controller users, and it's just a way for the controller users to kind of be slowly fed into being a wheel user and going beyond. So options are always great. There are 60 plus cars in Apex, which I will show you here. And that's going to do it for our first look. Subscribe to Inside Sim Racing for more Forza Motorsport 6 Apex coverage, and check out isrtv.com for all the latest in sim racing news. You can follow us on Twitter at Inside Sim Racing, and you can follow me if you like at Strange_Billy. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button if you would, and I will catch you guys in the next video. I'm Billy Strange for Inside Sim Racing. Take care.